everyone, welcome to Timari's world. Today's video is just going to be a little sit down talk video because I have something that I want to talk about, so I'm gonna talk about it. Today's topic is how being human is being a hypocrite. I feel like a lot of people have hypocritical ideals in their brains and they don't even realize it. Like a lot of people say that they believe in the phrase, think before you speak. However, a lot of people still say things that they don't mean. There are people that will get bumped into by somebody and be like, watch where you're going. But then when they bump into somebody, it's, oh, I tripped, it was an accident, get over it. It's interesting because a lot of things that other people wouldn't take from someone else, they have no problem with giving it out to someone else, because they can justify it. And the reason that they can justify it is because they know that their own intentions weren't to do any harm, or hopefully. But they know what their own intentions are. But when someone else does it to you, all you can do is jump to conclusions about what their intentions were, because even if they tell you point blank period, if it hurts you, you're probably not gonna believe them. You're probably gonna try to see a little deeper into what their intentions were when they hurt you, because why would they do that? But then when you do it to someone else, you find ways to justify it. You find ways to be like, oh, well, it was her fault because of this, or, oh, well, it just had to happen that way, or it just happened, or it was just something, whatever, you know? And I think it's just so interesting because it's like, it happens so often. Or like somebody will say something about someone else, or like mention someone's weight, or like what someone's eating, but will get so upset when someone does it to them. And I just think that's so interesting, because we as humans, we do that all the time and people don't realize it. But I feel like I realize it a lot of times when people do it. I realize it when people are being hypocritical, because I always realize it when I'm being hypocritical. Before I have a very strong opinion about something, I always have another voice in my head that kind of tells me, well, what about this? Or like, well, how would someone like this feel about me saying that? And a lot of people will call that overthinking because I do that before speaking almost every single time. I think before speaking very often, which I feel like is something that a lot of people say but they don't do. Interesting. And I feel like a lot of people are hypocrites in a way, because a lot of people seem to believe in the idea of not judging other people or not having prejudice on other people before you figure out, you know, what they're like or what their personality is like. But we all judge people. We all judge people as soon as we see them. We judge people based off of how they look, how they approach us, how they speak. Like, we're constantly judging people in our heads, and it's so interesting. And me personally, I try not to judge people. Like, I try not to judge people at all, and I try not to be like, I try just not to say anything bad about anybody else, because first of all, you never know what somebody else is going through. You never know what somebody else is like, and you could be judging somebody that's like a really sweet person, and like, they don't deserve that, you know? That's what I think about everybody. I feel like people judge me all the time just based off of what I look like, or what my social media looks like, before they've ever had a conversation with me. And while I do feel like my social media is kind of like little glimpses, they're little glimpses of me, but that's not who I am, you know? There are a lot of adults who will be very terrible children, like be doing all these crazy things and be getting into all this trouble, and then grow up to be such mean adults that are so mean to children and telling children to not do the same things that they did, when it's like, how are you telling me to not do the same thing that you did, but you did it? Like, clearly you at a certain point you thought it was a good idea. And I know you're sitting here telling me like it wasn't a good idea at the time, and like how you're older now and you see that it wasn't a good idea, but I'm the same age that you were when you made that decision. So if you thought it was a good idea when you were that age, there's probably something in me that's thinking that I think it's a good idea too. And it's interesting because it's people just act like it's not there, or they try to act like, I don't know, I don't know. And people, and this is including me, I'm people in this instance, but people will give other people advice all the time and be like, you know, do whatever makes you happy, or, you know, just follow your heart. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. As long as you're happy. Whole time they're not happy themselves, and they haven't been happy since 2006. Like, it's very interesting. But it's like, we can give each other advice, or we can tell other people how to act. We can imagine what other people's intentions are, but when it comes to ourselves, it's like we always have this little judge in our head that's always on our side. We have a little attorney in ourselves that's always advocating our point for ourselves in our own head, that's justifying all of our actions. But everybody thinks they're right. That's the problem, because we have all of these contradicting ideas, but everybody has that attorney in themselves and they all think they're right. That's the problem. But it doesn't have to be a problem. It just becomes a problem when people don't realize that we all have different attorneys in ourselves that have different things that they think is right in ourselves, and that nothing really is right, nothing really is wrong, because we all kind of think differently. So yeah, that's what I like to tell myself. That's what I like to think when I start thinking those hypocritical thoughts. I always tell myself that I don't like hypocrites, and I always say that I don't like hypocrites because why are you saying one thing but you're doing another? Make it make sense. However, I feel like we're all hypocrites in a way. I feel like being a human is being a hypocrite, as I said was the title of this video. It is very interesting because I don't know if we can ever get away from it. But I feel like if you can't get away from it, you have to like embrace it, you know? Just embrace the differences, embrace the fact that we're all hypocrites. People will be like very righteous and think they're all righteous people, but then they go and judge someone else for not being as righteous or as spiritual as they are. Baby, you're not following like the #1 rule of being righteous and being spiritual. You're judging other people right now, you know? So it's like, it's very interesting the world that we live in. But I'm in Timari's world, and over here we don't do hypocrites, even though I am one. But if everybody's a hypocrite, nobody's a hypocrite, I feel like. So anyways, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in next week's video. Bye.